Hello, Victoire Rozé, Senior Managing Director from ARDIAN, working with both the primary and secondary teams. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Alice. I'm happy to tell you a bit more about our program, if that makes sense.
Yes, please.
Before we jump into the current environment, what it means for us, what it means for the future.
Yeah.
So talking about our program, our primary and secondary activity at ARDIAN is a big one. We manage roughly $80 billion of AUM through primaries and secondaries. So primary being investing into new funds, and secondary being providing liquidity to LPs who can't wait the natural expiration of a fund, who need some liquidity before the 10, 12, 15 years sometimes that you need to get the full liquidity as an LP. So this is what we're doing. We deploy roughly 10 billion a year across primary and secondary, and we are the leading secondary buyer in the market.
Fab. Okay. So in that case, we're going to talk about kind of LP perspective on the market, and clearly you're very well positioned to do that. So interesting times for this market. Can you talk us through current environment and perhaps what LPs should be thinking about in terms of navigating the current environment?
Sure. So yeah, being an investor in 1,600 funds and having a relationship with more than 600 GPs, clearly we do have kind of a global view of what's happening right now in the market. First, of course, we're not immune to the new conditions and the volatility that we've seen over the last few months. Having said that, I would say that when we speak with our GPs, when we look at the financial trading of the underlying companies, it's still fairly healthy, so we continue to see growth within our portfolio companies. So that's a positive, obviously, something that we track very carefully. In terms of the valuation, we've not seen yet a big drop in valuation, and I think that's a common theme when you speak with all the LPs here at the conference. So this is a bit what we see right now as an LP on the existing portfolio, and of course we are monitoring very closely the situation. There is probably more volatility to come, more uncertainty, no question. But that's the current situation. So that's as an LP. When it comes to the secondary, which, as you know, is a big thing for us, we do see an accelerating deal flow clearly from that dislocation. We see LPs using the secondary market for the first time because they are under pressure. A lot of GPs are coming back to the market this year, so there is a big pressure to do re-ups. They don't want to miss on what they think will be a good vintage. Some of them basically miss the opportunity post-GFC on those funds that ended up being good vintage, so they don't want to replicate in a way that mistake. And so the secondary market is a way for them to free up capital and to be able to support those GPs with whom they can have strategic type of partnerships, whether it's for co-investments or many other topics. So that's that dislocation in a way creates that opportunity for us as a secondary buyer. For sure.
Okay, so it sounds like your take on the market is pretty positive, right? There's a lot of opportunities for both traditional LPs and for yourself as a primary and secondary investor.
I think in any dislocations, there are obviously challenges, and we need to face them the right way, to be very cautious, to spend a lot of time on our portfolios. On our side, we spend a lot of time with our GPs. We have a very bottom-up approach. We have a very large team, a huge database, a very large team which enable us to do that in-depth analysis to basically navigate as best and assess at best what are the assets we want to acquire, what are the assets that are the most resilient. But also when it comes to the secondary, one key thing is to assess exactly how are they valued, those assets, what are the funds that are fairly marked in a way so that we can generate returns afterwards. So that's the challenge in a way, to be very precise and to continue basically to leverage on our strength to do this proper assessment. That's a challenge, but in the meantime, that's also a way for us to leverage again on that big strength that we have, that big platform that we built over the last 20 years. And then on the opportunity side, of course, as a secondary buyer, that dislocation, as I mentioned, is creating further deal flow. There is a growth in that secondary market which is inherent, linked to what has been raised on the primary side. But clearly the dislocation is further accelerating that need for liquidity for some LPs.
Thank you. Okay. And then could we think more kind of in the future? Obviously, we've been through a very interesting year, let's say, or 6 months? What's your outlook for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, interesting time, no question. Challenging one also, for sure. I think what is ahead of us, it's still a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty. We don't have any crystal ball per se, but what we can do is basically to, again, leverage on the platform, leverage on the tool kit that we have to assess at best the opportunities on which we want to position ourselves. I think steady deployment is important. And so that's what we're focusing on, trying to pick the best opportunities that we can get from that new market conditions, those new market conditions.
Mm-hmm. Fab. And finally, do you have any words of advice for the viewers, whether that's LPs or GPs?
No, I would say that enjoy this conference, take the best out of this conference. I think it's a huge number of attendees, very high quality attendees as well. I think a lot to hear from different perspectives, LP, GPs. So that would be my immediate advice here in Cannes.
Fab. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Alice.